Turning to business news now, Stephen Carroll joins us for that. Stephen, going to start with a look at the markets. Are investors keeping an eye on that election in Georgia?
Yes, they certainly are, and we're seeing that play out on the currency markets today. The dollar weakening against several global currencies. We've seen it hit an almost 6-year low against the Swiss franc a short time ago. Investors are weighing up the potential winners and losers if the Democrats do take the Senate and that last seat that's still in play there in Georgia. On one hand, a Democrat control of the Senate might mean higher taxes and more regulation, but on the other hand, it could lead to a bigger stimulus package for the US economy, which is something the markets like. So all of that feeding into how markets are trading today. European shares starting the day up, though that's despite concerns over coronavirus cases. We've had news here in France that the tire maker Michelin is cutting 2,300 jobs over the next 3 years. They say that won't involve forced layoffs, but it is a big news here in France. Shares in the company up 1% in early trading in Paris. In Asia, a mixed picture on the markets. Shares down in Tokyo there in anticipation of a potential state of emergency being announced over rising coronavirus in the Japanese capital.
Meanwhile, Stephen, the price of the digital currency Bitcoin on the rise once again.
Yeah, it's been on the rise for a few months, but we saw this spike in recent days. It hit a record high in trading over the weekend. This is particularly as we see more mainstream platforms like PayPal starting to use Bitcoin, which is adding some of the investor confidence around it. Now, the price, as I said, hit a record high over the weekend, over $35,000. It hit that again in early trading today. You can see, according to the website CoinDesk, it's still up by 12% today, just under that $35,000 mark. We've seen swings of up to 20% up and down, though, in recent days. We're used to seeing big price swings in Bitcoin. This is a speculative asset. It's driven by what value investors think it has, which means that there could be plenty of volatility in store in the future as well.
In the United States, Donald Trump has been lashing out at Chinese technology companies once again.
That's right. The outgoing US president has moved to ban transactions using Chinese payment apps, including the hugely popular Alipay and WeChat. This is the latest in a series of executive orders targeting China in the dying days of Donald Trump's administration. The order says the apps threaten the national security and economy of the United States. President Trump's previous attempts to sanction WeChat were blocked by the courts.
A new snapshot of a global economy isn't painting a hopeful picture, Stephen.
Yeah, that's right. That was news from the World Bank and their forecast for the global economy. But turning to Cuba next, and problems including the overhaul of the currency there since the 1st of January. There have been some major teething problems with the unification of the island's two currencies, people complaining of price rises and difficulty in exchanging their old money. Camille Nedelak has the story.
Almost a week into Cuba's financial reform, one thing at least hasn't changed: the queues. People here are waiting to withdraw the now single national currency, the Cuban peso, which until this year had only been used within the country itself and is worth 24 pesos to the dollar. The defunct Cuban convertible peso, meanwhile, was used mostly for investments and businesses and pegged 1-to-1 to the dollar.
Cuando usted compraba en un CUC, ese CUC ahora se convierte por 24 pesos, por lo tanto se incrementa la masa de efectivo que van a tener los establecimientos, y hay establecimientos que no tienen toda la seguridad ni la capacidad para acumular la cantidad de efectivo que se genera por la venta y poder acumularlo.
Many people had held on to their convertible pesos after official reports that they could carry on using them for 6 months. But shops have since refused to accept them. Those with savings in the old currency have seen them drop in value, and electricity bills have increased 5-fold. The government has tried to offset this by boosting pensions and the minimum wage.
Los precios aumentaron incluso para algunos artículos que no estaban subsidiados, aumentaron igual. No hablemos de los de primera necesidad. Estamos hablando de otras cosas que no tenían por qué haberla subido tanto.
Hay que adaptarse a que ya no exista la otra moneda. También es un problema de mentalidad.
Havana is hoping that while painful in the short term, the reform will help to address the island's economic crisis by boosting exports and making it more attractive to foreign investors.
New figures on executive pay in the United Kingdom have produced some stark comparisons, Stephen.
Yes, the chief executives, according to this study, of the UK's biggest companies will have made more by the end of today than the typical British worker will make all year. That's according to the latest study from the think tank, the High Pay Institute. It says that top CEOs now earn around 120 times the pay of a median worker. So the typical company boss of a FTSE 100 listed company earned just under €4 million, the equivalent of in 2019, while median pay for full-time workers in the UK is the equivalent of just under €35,000. They're saying basically 34 hours of a top CEO's work is the equivalent of the typical annual salary of a worker in the UK. And it's not just the UK, of course, as well. It's just these figures relate particularly to that country.
A massive, massive gap. I'm struggling to take it in. Stephen Carroll, thanks a lot for that business update.